Hey film fans, welcome to Cinepro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. Our movie begins with Sydney, a blind girl who lost her sight when she was 5 years old. Since then, she has relied on her other senses to cope with what happened to her, and she is very successful in her field of work. The next day, she is scheduled for a corneal transplant so she can see again. The operation is done, and a little girl named Alicia comes to meet her. She tells her that she is 9 years old and is in the hospital because she has a brain tumor. She says she will come often to check on her after she removes the bandages from her eyes. When the time comes to remove them, her sister Helen is by her side, and Sydney's vision is very blurry. The doctor reassures her that the operation was successful and that it will take time before she can see normally. She notices a shadow moving and disappearing quickly. Sydney spends the night in the hospital and wakes up in the night to find the patient next to her talking to a black shadow, telling it that she doesn't want to go with it. But then she gets up and leaves the room with it. Sydney follows them to see where the person is taking her, but she finds they have disappeared. Suddenly, she sees many shadows appear around her and then all vanish. She returns to her room and wakes up in the morning to find the bed next to her empty, and she learns that the patient died the previous day. Sydney's case is closely followed by her doctor. She asks about the donor who gave her the cornea, but he tells her that he doesn't have that information and that it's not important as long as the operation was successful, which is the most important thing now. When it's time for her to be discharged from the hospital, she says goodbye to her friend Alicia and takes a photo with her for memory. Her sister takes her home, where she finds a party has been thrown for her to celebrate the success of her operation. She feels exhausted from all the effort and ends the party on a good note, then goes to sleep. But she wakes up from a nightmare about a gas leak in the stove and someone suffocating her. She wakes up terrified, tries to calm herself, and goes back to sleep. She goes again to consult with Paul, who is following her case, to help her adapt to her new situation. He learns from her that she lost her sight at the age of 5 because of playing with fireworks with her sister, and that she tried to have a cornea transplant at the age of 12, but the operation failed. Paul takes her for a walk and talks to her about the confusion she will face from the new things she will see, as everything is new to her, and his job is to prepare her to face the world. After her consultation with Paul, she goes home to learn the written musical notes, as she used to read them in Braille. She sees someone passing by her room and hears a strange sound. She goes out to see if someone is at her door, moves a bit away from her apartment, and when she turns, she finds a boy sitting on the ground behind her. She asks him where he lives, but he tells her that his father will be upset with him and punish him. Suddenly, he disappears in front of her. The next day, she is sitting with her band manager in a cafe and sees a woman in front of her who tells her she won't let her go easily and attacks her, but then suddenly disappears. Her manager comes to check on her, and she tells him that a woman just attacked her. She apologizes for what happened and leaves the cafe. There is a handprint on the spilled sugar on the table. Sydney goes home and tries to sleep and rest, but she keeps having nightmares and seeing strange places and faces, waking up terrified. She sees the objects around her change again, as if she is in a real place, to the extent that a chair next to her bumps into her. Then suddenly her things return to normal. She goes again to Paul to check if there were any mistakes in the analysis or results of the operation, but he assures her that all the results indicate the operation was successful. She insists that she is seeing strange things around her and that it's not her imagination. Paul tells her that she must be making it up because she was important before, and everyone respected her because she was blind. But now she realizes she's just like anyone else, so she's trying to get attention by lying. She's hurt by his words, leaves him, and goes home. She's bought a new TV to watch channels. She sees smoke coming in from under the door and looks through the peephole to see a black figure standing in the smoke. Suddenly, her room is burning, and people are dying in the fire. One person who is on fire grabs her hand and burns her. She wakes up suddenly and finds her hand burned where the person in the nightmare grabbed her, but the burn mark disappears immediately. She's sure something is wrong and can't stay in her room, so she goes out to walk. In the street, she sees a woman pass through her like a ghost. Sydney is surprised by what happened until she hears people around a woman who was hit by a car and died. Sydney goes to her and finds she is the same woman who passed through her. Realizing that what she saw was her ghost, she looks ahead and sees a black shadow walking beside the dead woman, which moves away until it disappears completely. She runs to the nearest place, which is a Chinese restaurant, sits at the nearest table, and calls Paul because he is the only one she knows who can help her. She begs him to come to the restaurant immediately. She waits and calls for the waitress, but no one responds. She starts seeing fire catching everything around her, and the whole restaurant is burning. She finds herself in the middle of a completely burnt, charred restaurant. As she tries to leave, she finds Paul in front of her. He asks her what she's doing in this burnt place and tells her that it was a Chinese restaurant that burned down weeks ago, killing 5 people. It was in all the newspapers. Sydney tells Paul that she is seeing strange and real things, that she saw someone die, and then her spirit walked with a black shadow. She leaves, and before she entered the elevator, she found a man standing with his back to her. She looked at the security screens and found that the screen showed that the elevator was empty, and 2 people came to ride the elevator normally because they didn't see the person next to them. She got into the elevator next to it after making sure that it was empty. She goes up, the same person appears next to her again, and she keeps telling herself that what is happening is not real. And the person starts to appear as if he is flying in the air and approaches Sydney. And as soon as the front door opens, she runs to her apartment, but she sees the child who was standing in front of her before, and he tells her that his father will punish him. And she looks at him again and finds him jumping from the building window, so she wants to save him. But she finds that the window is closed, and she keeps breaking it to look at the child, and finds that the street is empty and there is no one dead. She returns to her apartment. Suddenly, the boy appears again and starts chasing her. She runs into her apartment and breaks all the lights inside. She goes to the bathroom to wash the wound on her hand. She closes all the curtains so that no light enters the house and locks herself inside, refusing to answer anyone on the phone, until her sister is forced to answer the phone and then decides to call Paul to check on her in person. Paul comes to her and finds her isolating herself in her room, refusing to let any light into the room. Paul tries to light up the place and sees that Sydney needs to go to the hospital because of her hand wound. He makes her stay a day in the hospital, and night falls. Her friend Alicia comes to visit her and tells her that her tumor has healed, and it's time for her to leave. She leaves the room, and Sydney follows her. Finding her walking with a shadow, Sydney runs after her to stop her from going with the shadow, but they disappear in front of her, and she realizes that Alicia has died. Sydney collapses and cries on the floor and returns to her room. The next day, her sister Helen sits in front of her and tells Sydney that Alicia has passed away and shows her the photo they took together. When Sydney sees her photo, she can't recognize herself with Alicia and tells them that this isn't her and that she doesn't know who is in the photo. She runs to the bathroom mirror and indeed sees herself looking different from how she appears in the photo with Alicia. After leaving the hospital, she searches for the side effects of organ transplants, but finds that corneal transplants do not have any symptoms similar to what happened to her. She turns to Paul to help her find out who the donor of her cornea was and who the person she sees in the mirror every day is. But he refuses to help her because it's illegal. She leaves and returns to her apartment with her sister, afraid to take the elevator. After making sure it's empty, she gets in with her sister and finds their neighbor inside. When it's the neighbor's turn, Sydney sees the child standing outside the elevator. Sydney keeps staring at him until the neighbor asks if she can see her dead son, Tony, and Sydney can't reply. And Sydney keeps seeing this woman in the mirror, talking to herself as if she's speaking to someone in front of her. The figure in the mirror says she wants to help her. Suddenly, Sydney's hand moves by itself, and she opens her eyes wide, seeing people dying in a fire until she can't take it anymore. Sydney breaks the mirror in front of her, goes to her sister, and tells her she needs to know who the donor is. Paul decides to help her, and they meet somewhere, where he gives her an envelope with the donor's information and tells her the donor is from Mexico. They decide to travel to Mexico together. As soon as they arrive, she sees something like a shadow with the car, and it catches fire, then disappears. Sydney asks Paul to stop by a large burned factory, and they get out together to look for anyone in the area. They find some children, and Paul asks them what happened. A child says there was a fire in the whole place. The basement was closed, and everyone inside died, including his older brother, and the cause was a witch. They continue on their way to the address in the donor's report and see the word witch written everywhere. Sydney realizes she has seen this place before in her dreams. They reach the donor's house and meet her mother, most of whose body is burned. As soon as she sees them, she tells Sydney that she has her daughter's eyes. The mother says her body was burned because of a fire at the factory where she worked, and many people died. If only they had listened to her daughter, what happened wouldn't have happened. Sydney asks if her daughter used to see strange, unreal things. The mother says it's difficult for a person to have spiritual knowledge, and that tormented souls on earth haven't moved to the other world. She was the only one who could see these souls and had the ability to transfer them to the other world. Then Sydney sees the black shadow in front of her and realizes something is about to happen. Indeed, the mother has a heart attack, and they rush her to the hospital. Paul asks Sydney to stay at the house until he returns. Sydney enters Anna's room and starts seeing what happened in the factory before the fire. She sees all the shadows surrounding the people in the factory and understands something is going to happen. Anna tried to save them, but they refused to believe her. Then the fire happened, and the whole town accused her of being a witch and causing the fire, pushing her to suicide. Sydney wakes up to the sound coming from the basement and finds its door closing in front of her. She runs to see who's down there and sees Anna hanging herself. She tries to save her but fails, and she's the only one who can see her. Paul comes down and sees her condition and apologizes for not believing her. He takes her from the house to return home. Sydney learns that Anna's mother died in the hospital. They try to leave, but the road is blocked by police because they are chasing a criminal. Sydney sees a girl in the car next to her who looks like the girl she dreamed of. She gets out and moves among the cars, seeing many black shadows around her. She realizes an accident will happen there, and that all her dreams were visions of the future, of what is about to happen. She notices a gasoline truck nearby, which will cause the death of everyone around. She starts warning people that a bomb is about to explode and they need to get away. She succeeds in getting everyone away from the explosion site. Suddenly, a speeding car crashes into the gasoline truck and explodes. The explosion is so powerful that all the parked cars catch fire. Sydney looks at the explosion, and the glass in front of her shatters and enters her eye. She is immediately taken to the hospital, and Sydney loses her sight again, returning to her life as it was before. And she would be happy that she was able to save all the lives from death, and that this is what Anna was helping her with, so she could succeed where Anna had failed. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.